Hi, I'm Stan Houston, and once again, it's part of our Marketing Life Coach programs, a program designed to help you live well, market you, and grow your business, because truly you make the difference. Well, hopefully I've practiced some good marketing. You see, I have about 5 to 7 to 10 seconds to get your attention, and the title of this program is, What Does a Lexus and a Coffee Cup have to do with marketing you and your business? There it goes. Lexus and a coffee cup. Marketing you and your business. Now, hopefully you say, well, I really don't have time to watch this program, but I got to figure out what this is all about. In fact, one time I did a similar program. It was at a conference in New Orleans, and the title of my program is, What Does a Pig Carrying a Baseball have to do with marketing you and your insurance business? Lady came up to me as I was standing there, welcoming them into the breakout session, and she said, you know what? I really want to go to the program down the hall, but your title is so engaging, I'm going to come to your program because your title, I need to figure that out. Now that's true of all good marketing. It can't be boring and predictable, and we'll learn more about that. It has to be unique and different. It has to draw people in, create mystery, energy, excitement. The reason most of you are poor marketers is you practice all the traditional rules, if you practice any at all, and let me tell you, most marketing is boring. Don't be boring. The world is full of enough boring people with boring businesses who do boring marketing. And you want to be different. Again, you make the difference. Well, what does a Lexus and a coffee cup have to do with marketing you and your business? Well, it begins with a story. It's my story. And my story, as I've told many of you before, is that at the age of 45, my wife yelled at me and said, this is exactly what I was hoping for when I married you 20 years ago. I was hoping that after 20 years of marriage, we would have no house, no car, no job, no money, broke, and a kid in college. Obviously, we were in deep distress. Well, what I learned from that deep encounter with being deeply distressed is I had to figure out how I could break free from that situation, which I was in, and how I could learn to be successful. And not just successful in making money, but truly successful. I learned to become one of the 3% who know who they are, what they want, and they have a plan to achieve what they want. Well, when I was in those dark and dreary days, the kind of car I was driving was a beat-up old, and I won't even tell you the name of it because they make a very fine car now, but at that time it was a rusty old clunker, and it's the one that I was driving around. In fact, you know, you've had this experience. When I started my business, you would park maybe a block or two away and hope that the people who I was calling on didn't see the car I was driving. Well, eventually, as things got better, one of my friends came to me and said, Stan, I'm now in the business of helping people buy good used luxury cars. So, would you like me to look for a good car for you? And I said, yeah, I would. That would take away all of the hassle. Because, you know, buying a car can be a tough and costly and almost frightful experience, can't it? Now remember that. So I said, that'd be great. And he said, well, what kind of car would you like? I said, well, I might as well dream big. I said, I'd like a Lexus. He said, Stan, you'd like a Lexus? I said, yeah. And he said, great, we'll look for a Lexus. Kind of imagine that and visualize that. And so, as part of my imagination, you know, I got myself a Lexus hat because perhaps I would like a Lexus someday. Well, it turns out if you know what you want, sometimes the great opportunities come your way. And I remember when my friend called me and he said, hey, I'm here at this auction and it's really cold here in Wisconsin where I'm doing this kind of work, and there's a number of nice Lexuses coming back from lease, and they're ready, and we can have one for a good price. Would you like me to get you one? And he quoted an incredible price. And so, guess what? Going from that rusty old you-know-what, I had a beautiful ES 300 Lexus in the exact color I wanted with the moonroof. Well, my dear wife, who had put up with a lot, soon took that car away, and she used it a great deal. And so I had to wait a while to drive it full time because she drove the Lexus. Now, what Lexus knew was they were not just in the business of building a car. They were giving people more. And we experienced this one time when my wife came back to me and said, Stan, the flicker bulb, the turn signal in the Lexus is out. And I said, oh, well, maybe next weekend I can find time, I can go down to Pep Boys or Napa or some other car part place and I'll buy a little light bulb. And, it's probably just a little $2 or $3 bulb, and I'll find out if it's the right color, and for a couple of dollars, then I'll put it in myself. And she said, fine, but I don't want to wait for the weekend. I want it replaced now. So she said, I'm going to take it into the Lexus dealership and have them replace the light bulb. So, well, okay, $2 or $3 light bulb. Well, I think some of you know that when you go into a Lexus dealership, they treat you really nice. I oftentimes tell people that one of the great experiences you can provide people is to realize that everybody you meet, everybody is wearing an invisible sign. And this is what that sign says. It says, please tell me I'm important. Now that's vital for you to understand. Every client, every customer, every prospect, every person you meet is in effect wearing this sign. It's a secret sign. You don't see it that often, but that's what people want to know. That's what people want to hear. They want to know that they matter. They want to know that they're important. Well, my wife drove into the Lexus dealership, and because they had the service record there, they punched that up, and as she drove the car in, a very nice-looking, very attractive, well-dressed, nothing spectacular about him, but he didn't look like a grease monkey, if I can use an old expression that's not too unkind, but he looked good. He looked sharp. He looked ready for business. And he strolled over the car and saw that there was, by this time, a middle-aged woman and said, Mrs. Hustad, is that who you are? Mrs. Hustad, welcome to the Lexus dealership. Welcome to our experience. Wow, was that neat. And then she told him the trouble. And then he said, well, I guess we can take care of that. That shouldn't be any problem, Mrs. Hustad. Hey, Mrs. Hustad, while you're at it, why don't you take a break? You can read the Wall Street Journal, the USA Today. We've got some chocolate chip cookies there, some good Starbucks coffee. Help yourself. Use the phone, whatever you want. Enjoy your time. Wow. And my wife said this, that would be nice. Now remember those words, that would be nice. And then just as she was leaving to go to the waiting room, the man came over and said to her, by the way, Mrs. Hustad, would you like me to wash the car just for you? Would you like me to do that? Oh, that would be nice. Well, about 20 minutes later, right on time, my wife was called. She went in, and there was the Lexus, all polished and cleaned up and working fine. And she said, wow. Well, that $2 light bulb cost her, when everything was said and done, almost $70. I guess you might say she got ripped off. But she wasn't ripped off. You see, it was wonderful. As I say, she can hardly wait for an oil change. Because what she found out, and what we have discovered since then, is that whenever we went to the Lexus guy, they were in the business of creating a great experience. One that was memorable, something that we really enjoyed and brought us back. And so $2, $3, $4 light bulb, Seems much, seems an awful lot, but you know, we weren't just buying a product. We weren't just buying some service. We were buying something else. Now, I want that story to sit on you because in many cases, you've had similar things happen to you. And that's how life and business and marketing has changed. And so I want you to think about what happened there. And then I'm also going to ask you to think about Starbucks and what happened or happens there. About 10 years ago, a good friend of mine, in fact, he's a former student of mine, his name is Joe Pine, and along with his partner, Jim Gilmore, they wrote a book. And here it is. It was simply called The Experience Economy. The Experience Economy. Now, what they showed us and what they proved in this best-selling around the world book is that everything has changed in terms of sales, marketing, and customer service. You have to take it to another level. Now let me, with a few props here, because this is a little bit of a show, let me try and explain to you what the experience economy said, and then how it refers to you, how it impacts you, your business, your service, insurance, investments, tacos, trucks, termite control. It takes in everything. Now, I could go and get a cup of coffee. Okay? Here are some coffee beans. You know, probably as they would come from the coffee plant, somewhere in some coffee growing part of the world. Now, here's the point I want you to remember, and you write it down, you see it on the sign now. This coffee bean, it is a commodity. That's all it is. It's a commodity. It's something that is grown, something that is extracted. It's a commodity. By the way, when something is a commodity, people usually only ask 3 questions. How cheap is it? Can I get it cheaper? Can we negotiate it? In effect, that's what a coffee bean is. It's a commodity. And most products, most services really begin with something that is a commodity. Now, what happens is they may pay just a few dollars a pound, maybe even less, for that commodity. But then we take the commodity and, I go down to my supermarket and I literally found some coffee that goes back many, many years, even to my youth. I used to see this in the old A&P in Indiana. They take the commodity, the coffee beans, and they bake them and roast them and maybe sort them, and then they package them, take the commodity, and they package it into a product. Okay, you got that now. So the commodity becomes a product. Here I have a product. That's a pound of coffee, which I can buy at the supermarket. And by the way, I think I paid $6, $7 a pound for this product. Now here's the problem. There were hundreds of different products on the shelf. I could have had my pick of, oh my goodness. In fact, the lady helping me said, wow, I never knew there was so many brands of coffee. So in effect, even though this has been decommoditized, made into a product, now the product itself has become a commodity. Oh my goodness. And they're competing on price. You know, the product became a commodity. Now, there's more money in selling the product than there is in selling the commodity. But there's more that goes into it. Now, the next thing you can do, and this is vital to understand as to what happened, and perhaps I'm just explaining something to you that you already know, but this gives it a context. I can go to a nice cafe or a restaurant, and they can serve me a cup of coffee. Tastes good. Now, you see what they did? They took the coffee commodity, they took the product, and they transformed it into a service. Now, you got that? A service. Because what they did is they ground the coffee bean, they brewed the coffee bean, they poured it into my cup, and they brought it to me, and they served me for it. And that coffee bean that perhaps cost $1.50, $2 a pound, I think in a nice restaurant I probably paid $1.50, maybe even $2 for the service. I wasn't really buying the coffee. I was buying the fact that somebody brewed it for me, served it to me, cleaned up after me, and did the dishes. I just enjoyed the service and got up and left. Now, that has been the way the world has worked for years. People are selling commodities, whether it's cotton or candy or, as we say, coffee, whatever. They then sell those commodities. People then take those commodities and do what they do to them, and they turn them into commodities. And then they bring that forward and use that product as part of a service. Now, in many cases, service is where the money is. Obviously, the person who sold me the coffee brewing and coffee cleanup service for $2 made more money, it would seem, than the person who had the either the privilege or the difficulty of trying to make money by putting it in a product, and even more so, taking that product, individual coffee beans, and picking them. But over 20 years ago, a gentleman in Seattle discovered something new. And this, of course, is the legendary Starbucks. And what he said is, let's make it even more so. I'm not just going to sell coffee, I'm going to make it into something unique, very custom. You can have a coffee served in the product exactly what you want. And it's going to be in a setting like an Italian bistro. And we're going to let you lounge there and come in and enjoy. And this is the word you need to remember. Enjoy the Starbucks experience. There we go. Now, this thinking from my friend Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore changed the world of marketing today. First of all, they discovered what all of us are really beginning to know. Almost everything out there, there's too much of it, and I can buy it from anybody. Those of you who are in the financial services, many of you now know when I say insurance is just a commodity. People can buy insurance from anybody. They can buy it from nobody. They can buy it on the internet. And they're not going to look at the premium pricing. They're wanting to know, where can I get it cheaper? Walmart has discovered that one of the great powerful things about them is that if they can take a product and very much by force and scale make it huge, and they can take just a few cents on the dollar of cost, they can take a product and they can almost make it into a commodity so they can cut prices for you. So Walmart, a very powerful marketer, learns that if it's a commodity, they can bring it to their customer cheaper. And we like that. And the internet. I'm looking for a camera for a trip to New York City. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, what am I doing? I'm looking for that camera, and I'm shopping the internet, and who will I probably buy it from? Well, you got it. Even though it's a beautiful camera, it has now become a commodity, and I'll probably click the one that will give it to me cheaper. There we go. Service, product, they've all been commoditized. Now, that's a tough way to have to make a living because people are not necessarily appreciative of the fact that you brought a product to them or you brought a service to them. They may simply want it cheaper. And we have to deal with where we want to live on this economic scale. We might say, that's fine. I'm going to sell coffee beans, and I'm going to sell the best coffee beans I can, and I'm going to have all of my means of production way down so I can sell the best coffee beans at the best price. I'll make money as a commodity. You may decide, well, I'm going to take that commodity and I'm going to make it into the best product I can. And so you work hard, understanding that that product has been somewhat commoditized, but you work hard and you put that product out there. A friend of mine is in the lumber business. He said, I'm selling dead trees, and people look for the cheapest dead tree they can find. Service. Many people say, well, we give great service. Do you know of anybody who advertises poor service or mediocre service? Well, they all say they have great service, so by just saying I have great and good service doesn't make it so. Now, that's your challenge, but just simply to claim great service will not work. I think you see where we're going. What we have to do is we have to take that commoditized product or service we have, and as my friends said, you have to turn it into an experience. Wow. People say, that was nice. I like that. That was good. Now here is the key, is you see, the better the experience, the more unique it is, the more customized for the client or customer that it is, the more memorable it is, the more fun it is to receive that service, that product. It becomes an experience. My wife did not just buy a light bulb from a guy who sells Lexuses. She received a unique and engaging and powerful experience. And you know what? It made her smile. She wants to come back. She likes it there. And she knows she's going to pay a premium price for that experience, but she's one of those customers who wants a great experience. Now, I'm going to ask you, you're going to hear about this all the time from now on. Listen for it. Everybody is advertising an experience, but it's more than customer service, far more than just good and great service. It's something that really is unique and memorable and delightful. I went into a very fine restaurant when I was in Brazil, and I was teaching a group of people about how you have to understand that. And we discovered, oh, that's right. We love this restaurant. But then as we began to look what was happening, we realized that the food was good. It was good food. But you know what? What we really enjoyed was how we were treated. What we were paying a little extra money for from that night in Sao Paulo as we celebrated our conference together was we were paying for the experience of how we were treated, how we felt, how good we came out of that, saying, that was really nice. Now, my challenge in my business, and my challenge to you in your business is, if you have a product or a service, I guarantee you it's being commoditized by somebody. Somebody is going to try and sell it cheaper than you are because that's the business they're in. They don't care. They're just trying to cheapen the price, get their margins out of that cheap price, and be on their way. Every product, every service is in danger or is already fully commoditized. How can you turn your business, your service, the work you do for others into an experience? And that's the challenge. Now, the answer to that is many, 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 many ways. And we'll have to discover which one is the best for you. And in working together and thinking that through and perhaps working with your clients and colleagues and customers, you will come up and design the kind of experience that you know pleases your clients and customers in such a way that they don't want to leave you, they're more loyal to you, and they enjoy the experience and will even pay a little bit. In fact, they might pay a lot more for the experience of working with you in your business. I can no longer survive, for the most part, by just putting a commodity or a product or an ordinary service out in the marketplace. That used to be where I could survive that way, but I probably can't survive that way anymore. So you have to make that decision. Now, I'm going to bring you right back to the book again, and the subtitle is even more important. It's The Experience Economy, and it says, work is theater and every business a stage. Now, may I say that again? Work is theater and every business a stage. Part of the understanding you have to have now in the experience economy is that we are all performers. Every business is show business. And as my friend Joe and Jim will say, this is not a metaphor. This is true. When you're putting on a performance, a presentation, it's the way you show. You have to dress for it. You have to act for it. You have to perform for your people. Now, that's why we call this personal performance marketing. It's about learning the kind of shows you have to put on. Now, I prefer a, quote, a dramatic experience. Let's think of our work as show business. It's not about a war. We're not battling for market share. We're not trying to kill the competition. War is horrible. Why do we use that metaphor for business? I even wonder about a sports metaphor. We're not trying to beat anybody or overcome anybody, but like a good dramatist, like a good musician, like a good performer, we're trying to please the audience. They say, this is nice. We're not trying to put the other show out of business or beat the other band so that they go broke. What we're trying to do is be so good at providing a great performance and a great show and a great experience is that people come, they say bravo, they cheer, and they bring their friends. They recommend them to others. I know, and you need to know, that my friend was right. Joe was right, and we argued about this. He says, no, Stan, it's not just a descriptive metaphor. It's true. All business is show business. That led me later on to a man named Dale Anderson, who simply said this, act now. And he said, successful acting techniques you can use every day to dramatically improve health, wealth, and relationships. And what we're now learning, and what you need to understand, and at least deal with it, how do the performing arts, the way you perform, the way you create a great experience in how you treat other people, the kind of atmosphere you create, the kind of Starbucks or Lexus experience you have in your business, no matter what it is, so people say, I like this. This is nice. You see? In doing that, you begin to take a commodity, a product, a service, and turn it into an experience. And the first way you start to do that is you understand that it is about creating a great show, a great drama. Now, let's be very honest right now. This is going to be about a 40-minute program. I wonder if many of you would sit down and read an article for 40 minutes. Now, if you're really engaged and really engrossed, you might do so. But what I'm trying to do is create this information, but to do so, and I have to make sure that as best I can, I make it a pleasant experience. That it's memorable for you, that you enjoy it, that you learn from it, you walked away and said, you know, that's something that I can use in my business. Now, I may fail. Perhaps I'm not as good at it as I want to be. People love a show and people don't like a show. Some people will say it was a great performance, a great show, and some other critic will say it was a terrible show. You don't know. As you create experiences and performances, some people will like it and some people will hate it. You have to understand that's the risk you take. I had a person one time who was helping me with a book, and she said this to me. She said, "Stan, we don't want anyone to like your book." I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" She said, "I want your book to be so sharp and unique and different that people either love it or hate it. I don't want them to be lukewarm neutral. A good experience is one people really like. They remember it. It's memorable. And they were pleased by it." Again, those magic words, that's nice. That would be nice. And in some cases, if we happen to hit the wrong note or the wrong chord, or we put on a poor show, or if we just simply had the wrong play for the wrong audience, they simply say, "Didn't like it, I'm going to go elsewhere." And that leads us to, of course, that marketing principle is that you have to know who you're trying to reach and how you can best reach them by creating this experience. There's something even more unique about this, and I don't recommend this, but you can see where it will go. When I did that speech, what does a pig carrying a baseball, have to do with marketing you and your business? That is based on something that actually happened. The St. Paul Saints, where I lived in Minneapolis, St. Paul, had the Minnesota Twins, who have had, up and down years. But they also have in the city next door, St. Paul, what was a very, very minor league team called the Saints. Now here's the point. The baseball product that the Saints put out. I mean, as someone said, these were wannabes and probably never will be's, but the baseball is not the best. But it's the lower minor leagues. Some will make it, most will not. But the point was, people bought out the place every night. Why? Because it was fun. So when the umpire needed a new set of baseballs, rather than going over and picking them up, the fun part was that a pig would walk out and he would be having a big bag around his neck and he would carry the baseballs. And the audience loved it. They thought that was so much fun. What happened was that the St. Paul Saints were not trying to put out a product of a baseball game. They were trying to create a wonderful family experience. Now, literally, that transformed minor league baseball, and it became a very, very viable business. Even today, as I'm telling you that story, and those of you who've had experience with baseball throughout many of the minor league cities within the United States and perhaps Canada and Mexico understand that's exactly what happened. Yeah, it's beginners baseball. It's people who are just beginning, young pros who want to be, but what they did is they made it an experience. So even though the product was not the best product out there, they didn't compete on product, they competed on the experience. Now, do you see how that works? Now, what I have to do is I have to understand that if I'm selling insurance, if I'm selling investments, if I'm selling annuities, you literally know that that has been a fully commoditized product. People can buy them from anybody, anywhere. Same thing is true of automobiles. The same thing is true of tacos. The same thing is true of termite control. The list could go on and on. All of those products and services have been commoditized. My challenge is to figure out, by turning it into a good show, how do I take that product, how do I take that service, and turn it into an experience. Now, you're going to hear the word used all the time from now on. It's been overused, and many of the people who talk about the experience aren't really serious about it and don't really provide one. They've just read the book and they've copied it from those of us who did the original work in trying to figure out how to do this. But you need to understand that's what you're competing against. If you just walk into the world and you have a commodity or a product to sell, something that people can buy from anybody or buy from nobody or buy on the internet or buy in some place where you can't at all compete with the price because they make money on a cheap price and you can't because you don't have the scale for that. You have to figure out how to create that incredible added value that comes from the experience. And you start by understanding, as I said, and let me pick it up and show it to you again. The sign, please tell me I'm important. Please tell me I'm important. Treat me as one of the most important persons in the world. Know my name. Make me think that, hey, Stan, are you really playing this song just for me? This is truly for you. Is that what you mean? Think about that. So, commodity, product, service, experience. Now, in your business, how can you begin to do that? How can you start to make that difference? Now, I'm going to ask you to think about a couple things just to get you started, because we're going to talk about this at greater length in some of the other programs that we do. I would first of all say that the easiest way to create an experience is just exactly that. Pay attention to that sign. Treat people well. Hospitality matters a lot. I oftentimes recommend that a business appoint a CHO, a Chief Hospitality Officer. This is not just another receptionist who gets you coffee. And by the way, what if that coffee is served, bad coffee, stale coffee, in a styrofoam cup? That's not a very nice experience. How can you have somebody in your business who takes the hospitality, the experience? I've worked with people who've literally appointed a CXO. They call it a Chief Experience Officer. And their job is to really help the business create, stage, use drama, use performing, use relationships, use a variety of things that really enhances the experience. The experience, the hospitality, being treated as the most important person in the world. Someone needs to be responsible for that. So that's where you start. Another great experience is simply not to be sold, but to be listened to. I oftentimes tell people this when they're working in a sales appointment: shut up and listen. Listen for their story. Do you know what a great experience it is to be fully listened to? To have somebody put down their pen and show full interest in you. Oftentimes when I'm working with a client, I never take notes. I'm just listening fully. I'm fully present because I know what a transforming experience that can be. And I may say, if something is important that needs to be written down, I'll say, maybe pause for a moment. I'd like to write that down because I want to remember it. That's important. And then I do that, and I say, thank you. Continue. Please and thank you. That's a great experience. Telling people, I am grateful for you. Thank you. That's an experience which very few people have today. It goes a long way. The simplest way in terms of presentation is to learn to be a great storyteller. Now let me tell you, everybody loves a story. And you need to have your product, your offer, what you're bringing to the marketplace, you need to have it storied. People do not want to see boring graphs and charts and a lot of dead tree brochures. Papers that was a tree at one time. It didn't make lumber, it became a piece of paper. It's a dead tree. It's experientially flat. It's experientially dead. It has no experience at all. People who are bored or people who are not excited or energized by their presentation. Working with many people is just a bad experience. So you take it to the level where you tell great stories. When people hear, let me tell you a story, and you use a good story to connect to a person in which that gives the demonstration of the value to the people you're trying to help. That's one of the simplest ways to create a great experience. People know they're not going to be sold. They're not going to be high pressured. They're not going to be high pressured for referrals. I remember hearing someone say this, "Hey, I don't take no until they call security." Well, I admire their perseverance, and if that works for them and they're successful in their business, that's fine. Let them do that. I know that if I had to call security to get somebody out of my office who was trying to sell me something that I didn't want to buy right now, that would be a very unpleasant, very bad experience. Now you have to figure that out. How can you, as you market, offer, make presentations, do demonstrations, tell stories? Hearing a good story is one that I get involved in, and I remember it. We remember good stories. By the way, some of the better ads on television are simply funny stories. They're experiences. Notice that many times they don't even talk about the product itself in terms of many of the features and benefits. We are drawn in by the experience, we're drawn in by the story, and we want to be a part of that. We'd like to experience that. We would like that to be part of our life experience. Well, there you are. It's quite a challenge, but boy, it makes business a whole lot more fun. Where instead of just trying to sell something, I'm trying to be out there treating people well, helping them, connecting with them, providing great experiences for them, sharing wisdom with them, listening to their story, helping them in every way I can, whether I sell them or not. And they say, "That is nice. That is nice. I want to do business with you." Because truly, now what has happened is your marketing has become a way of life. There we go again, the marketing life. Remember, it's not your message. It's how you treat others. And so you live the marketing life, and you create something of value, something unique, something that's different that only you can provide. And so if they want that kind of great experience again, they'll have to come back and buy it from you. Well, there you go. I hope this has been helpful and useful, and right now you're taking a time out to think about, how can I take my product, my service, my business, and the presentation, the offering that I have, and take that lowly product or service that I have and turn it into a great experience. My friends, it is the experience economy, and you must know what having a cup of coffee in a Lexus has to do with marketing you and your business. May it go well with you as you live and thrive in the experience economy. I'm Stan Houston. We'll see you again, and bye for now.